Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is the 20th of May, 2021. Right, everyone, the day after the big crash of 2021, biggest crash that we have had since COVID, since I guess March 2020 here. So let's take a look at what happened. So something that I've been seeing people talk about a lot over the last 24 hours was how well the DeFi ecosystem handled the crash, because there's always a lot of talk about DeFi and how risky it is, and basically how these cascading liquidations means that a lot of stuff can become under collateralized, or there's not enough liquidity in the system. All these concerns, and they are legit concerns. It's not just like people trolling and trying to like poke holes in things that shouldn't be kind of poked holes into. But I think it handled it extremely well. Even Giorgio's here from Paradigm put out this tweet, and he said, "Is nobody going to talk about how well Ethereum's DeFi ecosystem handled the cascading liquidations these days?" Now, go back a year and guess what happened. Well, I mean, you don't have to guess what happened. If you remember what happened in March of 2020, the MakerDAO system, one of the most popular, or the most popular way to get leverage in DeFi, actually became under-collateralized because the keeper bots that were meant to bid on the collateral once positions went, were under-collateralized and needed to be liquidated, didn't work as they should have, right? And of course, they needed to print more MKR tokens to cover the shortfall and all this sort of stuff, and people got hurt. Now, I haven't heard a story of anything within Ethereum DeFi of people losing kind of any money that they shouldn't have, or things not working as it should have. And even all the layer 2 things are working quite well as well. I saw DYDX and Loopring and Diversify, all that sort of stuff worked really, really well as well. So, and this is a testament to how far we've come in the DeFi ecosystem, right? And how well we've built this stuff, and how resilient we've built it. Because at the end of the day, if this stuff isn't built to survive those massive crashes, then it is not a proper financial system. And I actually think that we survived this without circuit breakers. Like, for those of you who may be aware, in traditional finance, in the stock market, there's these things called circuit breakers that actually stop a particular stock or an index or whatever from going too high or too low. So if it's dumping really quickly, it actually puts a trading halt on. Lets people kind of gather themselves up and basically I guess clean the leverage out of the system more gracefully and things like that, and then trading restarts. Now, this doesn't happen in crypto, obviously. There are no circuit breakers. There is nothing like that. If the price is falling, it can fall very, very quickly due to these cascading liquidations, which is exactly what happened yesterday when, we fell down to an $1,800 ETH, or I think it was about $1,900, and a $30,000 Bitcoin. Huge dumps across the board, and we had a lot of, volatility after that. The volatility continued to today. I woke up and the price was back to like 2,200 after going at like 2,700, and now we're back at like 2,900. And yeah, the volatility is still quite crazy, but DeFi's handling it well. Yes, the fees got out of hand or whatever, but that is part of the system, right? The fees are just, I think like for end users, are a temporary thing. Once we get layer 2s live and everything like that, it's going to be all fine there. But I did want to kind of give a shout out to Chainlink for their oracles, because Chainlink oracles power a lot of this ecosystem. They power all the Aave markets. They power a lot of the other kind of money markets out there, and a lot of other things. And they handled this crash very gracefully. All the price fees updated as they should, and everything ran just fine. So, Chainlink, I think, were the real MVPs. Because at the end of the day, if you have oracles that don't update correctly, or have a wrong update, or take too long to update, or whatever, it introduces systemic risk into the DeFi ecosystem. So I think Chainlink were the real MVPs here. And Chainlink God replied kind of like with a breakdown here that the data feeds just updated everything like business as usual. There was kind of nothing going on here. And for those who don't know, Chainlink aggregates a bunch of different feeds from different providers and kind of spits out a price based on that, and all of that seems to have been green during the whole market downturn here, which is quite incredible, honestly. And I know it's still like, they reduced the cost of it recently to post this Oracle data on chain, but it's still quite expensive to do so. So, even though the gas fees got up to like 2,000 Gwei plus, Chainlink oracles functioned very well there, which is really, really cool. And Allan here, the founder of Yield, Yield Protocol here, and basically said that put a tweet out. It said, massive dip and not a single protocol blew up, incredibly bullish. And of course, he was talking about protocols on Ethereum and not on other chains. Like Robert Leshner put out a kind of like reply here and said that Venus on BSC kind of blew up. But yeah, so on Ethereum, nothing blew up like we did in March 2020. It was just, I mean, it's kind of amazing, like how literally nothing blew up and everything went fine, and the markets sorted themselves out and everything like that. I really do think that that's an incredibly great indicator for the future, and it instills trust in a lot of people too, right? It instills trust in not only individuals but companies and institutions, saying that this ecosystem is not a joke, right? It is incredibly resilient. You can build products on here and you'll be fine. So I think that is an incredible testament to that. And I think one of the products that actually, survived the dip the best, and one of the newer products was the flexible leveraged index from the Index Co-op here. Now, for those who don't know, this is basically a tokenized leverage position that basically levers you up 2 times on ETH here. And this survived just fine. It didn't get blown up, didn't get liquidated or anything like that. It functioned just fine. And I think, there was a lot of concerns around this product, saying that, what's going to happen in a flash crash? Is it actually going to get liquidated, right? Can the system that's in place recollateralize fast enough? And it did. It did. It worked flawlessly from everything I saw. So that's just another testament to these newer products that are out there right now that essentially, aren't as battle tested, and you only get battle testing by, the last 24 to 48 hours happening and all that good stuff. So yeah, just incredibly bullish overall to see such amazing kind of resiliency from the DeFi ecosystem as a whole here. So yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that for now. I'm sure you'll see some more postmortems, not postmortems, but like more kind of like summaries of what happened, how everything went so smoothly from different people. I mean, I know Chainlink God has a bunch of different threads that he put together where he explains why Chainlink did so well and how their system is set up and all that sort of stuff. So you can go check out his Twitter for that sort of stuff. And he's a good follow as well for all things Chainlink, that's for sure. So Sandeep from Polygon put out an interesting tweet where he said, I was talking to some market participants today, and he was saying this yesterday. They were saying when the market went down from 3,500 to 3,000 to 2,500 to 2,000, blah, blah, blah. Crazy thing I noticed is that they talked about markets in ETH prices and not BTC. Signs of mental flippenings before markets flip for real, ? I thought this was interesting, and I replied saying the ETH standard, right? Because I really do think that if you're talking about crypto native stuff, you're talking about ETH a lot of the time. Not only because of DeFi, but because ETH has become such an amazing asset to use within, both in centralized exchanges and DeFi as collateral, right? As money, as trading pairs. Everyone needs it to kind of pay gas fees and all that sort of stuff. So we're kind of having this thing where ETH is becoming the centerpiece of the crypto ecosystem as an asset. And BTC is becoming this niche. And I've spoken about this a lot, where I believe that BTC is a niche. It's, it can be digital gold or whatever, and that's something that appeals to people. But, it's so small, and it's not a bigger dream, right? I always like to say, dream bigger dreams. And that's exactly what Ethereum and ETH are doing. Bitcoin is not going to have a DeFi ecosystem built on top of it. I've seen some DeFi products claiming to build on Bitcoin, and whatever that is going to be, incredibly underwhelming. It's not going to be anything like the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem. And as we've seen lately, a lot of the other ecosystems out there, a lot of the other chains are failing to gain traction, I think. Like even BSC is actually falling apart right now. I've seen a lot of tweets about people saying that the chain's forking a lot. Clients are having trouble keeping up with the head of the chain. Which means that the chain's becoming unstable and things like that. So, not a great bedrock to build your products on, definitely. And I think a lot of the serious DeFi devs out there aren't even touching BSC, which makes a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, if you want a BSC kind of like experience with, much more security and an Ethereum aligned team, you go with Polygon, I think, right? I've talked about Polygon a lot and about how, it's not a roll-up or anything like that. It is essentially a side chain or a commit chain, whatever you want to call it, to Ethereum, but a very politically aligned one, and one that's, takes security and user fund security seriously, and isn't just like trying to, isn't unstable or anything like that. Actually has a lot of checks and balances in place for things like that. But, you guys know I'm an advisor to Polygon, so I won't shill too much there. But I just think that, Ethereum and ETH are the center point of this entire ecosystem and will continue to be into the future. So Brian from Sorare basically put out a tweet yesterday where they announced that they are scaling Sorare, which is a NFT platform for, I think, football or soccer, whatever you want to call it here. They're doing it with Starkware. Now, I think, I've seen a few people be interested in this in the Daily Way community and talk about this. So it's really cool to see that they are doubling down on Ethereum here. They're not moving to another blockchain or an NFT blockchain like Flow, which, I mean, you guys know I don't really consider Flow to be a blockchain or what they have to be NFTs, but I won't go into that now. But his tweet mentions an interesting thing. So his tweet reads like this: gas fees suck, but at Sorare, I think it's how you say it anyway, we believe in open platforms and don't want to compromise on security. That's why we're doubling down on Ethereum with ZK rollups with Starkware. We're going to change the NFT game in July 2021. I love teams like this. Like, honestly, these are my favorite teams in the entire space. Like, some of you may know I'm not really into sports or anything like that, so I don't follow that closely, but that doesn't matter to me. Like, Sorare, I think, has gotten a lot of traction, and a lot of people love sports, right? Especially football, soccer. And I just love that they're doubling down on Ethereum here and choosing to scale via layer 2 instead of going to another platform. These are the teams that actually understand what's going on. There's others out there, obviously Immutable X, I'm a big fan of, and Gods Unchained, and all the partners that they have going on there. And I've spoken about before, it's like, if you can get the low fees, fast transactions on layer 2 Ethereum, then there is literally no reason to go to a new ecosystem. Like, it's much harder to go to a new ecosystem, another blockchain or whatever you want to call it here. So yeah, I think that's really, really positive. But as they say here, this is going to be going live on July of 2021. So if you're a Sorare user, definitely this is relevant to you. You can go read the full kind of blog post here and description of like what this is all about and how this is all going to work. It'll be linked in the YouTube description below. So Hayden Adams did a bit of a retrospective of the last 48 hours where he said, crazy day in crypto, how did Uniswap perform? So there was no downtime, obviously, unlike most centralized exchanges, which most centralized exchanges did go down. I think FTX was the only one that didn't have any issues. Binance had issues, Coinbase had issues, BitMEX and a bunch of other exchanges I think had issues as well. But none of the dexes on Ethereum did. And, the gas fees were high, but as long as you paid the fees, you were fine, right? You could use Uniswap. And there was an insane all-time high daily volume of $6.3 billion and $2.7 billion worth of volume in Uniswap V3 alone, on just 900 million TVL here. So, and as Ed Hayden says here, the demand and value prop of DeFi is already very clear at this point, right? I mean, anyone who's doubting DeFi right now, and I put a tweet out today where I said, if you don't believe that DeFi is the future, we can't be friends. I mean, I said that as a joke, but seriously, if you are denying DeFi now, if you don't think it has a massive part to play in the future in terms of like financial instruments and all that sort of stuff there, then you're just not seeing it. Like, you're just not getting it, and you're just going to be left behind because DeFi keeps growing, and it keeps growing at an exponential rate. The high fees haven't deterred the growth of DeFi at all. I mean, I put out a screenshot today of Crypto Fees website where there was like really high fees on Ethereum, and people were complaining, like high fee revenue, people were saying, well, this is, this is actually not bad. Why are you bragging about this? I'm like, well, that's missing the forest for the trees. Yes, obviously this prices out a lot of users, but at the same time, it shows that there's incredible demand for Ethereum and Ethereum-based products, which means that once we get layer 2s up and running and people can, more layer 2s up and running with, obviously Arbitrum's launching very soon, that generalized layer 2. We already have awesome platforms like Polygon. We already have awesome layer 2 platforms like DYDX, and Optimism's coming, and all this sort of stuff like Diversify, Loopring, the gist here. Once we have that, I mean, it's amazing because those wouldn't have gotten built without demand. Like, if there was no demand for DeFi, if there was no pain points, if there was no scaling issues, then the layer 2s wouldn't have gotten developed and deployed. You can look back to when Gwei was under 10. There was no motivation to build a scaling solution. There was no motivation to build layer 2s. It just didn't exist. You don't build infrastructure before you have kind of demand at the end of the day, because demand drives the building here. So I think, when you react and see that and you're like, oh, it's pricing out users and everything like that, just remember how early we are, because it's the same thing as saying, oh, well, dial-up internet is, pricing out users because it's more expensive, and it basically, if you want to get like the much better experience, the higher data caps and everything, like, it's super expensive. It's like, well, yeah, it was. Then costs came down over time. They always do with technology. It does not stay expensive, especially when there's this much demand for it. So I think keeping that in mind is very important as we approach the rollout of layer 2s, as we kind of like get more involved with this sort of stuff and have more growth here. But yeah, crazy day for Uniswap, crazy day for all the dexes. I think SushiSwap did a lot of volume as well, and a bunch of other DeFi protocols out there. So really awesome to see that, and I can't wait to see what, I guess, like the total volume of this month shakes out to on decentralized exchanges. I bet it's going to be maybe as much as like the total volume of the rest of the year combined. But we'll have to see. There's still 10 days, 11 days left of May. We'll have to see how that shakes out. So speaking of Uniswap, John Palmer here announced that he has launched fish.vote, which is an app to make Uniswap governance more accessible. So what fish.vote lets anyone do is create a crowd proposal that others can support. If a proposal receives 10 million delegated votes, it becomes a formal Uni governance proposal. So this is really cool. I think any tools that make protocol governance easier and democratize it further is very welcome here, because obviously 10 million Uni is worth a lot, right? I don't know what the current Uni price is. Let's just say it's $30. It's probably not, but let's just say it is. That means that it takes $300 million to kind of put up a proposal here. But what Uniswap allows people to do is delegate their Uni tokens to people that they want to vote for them. Not give their tokens to them, obviously, but delegate their voting power, essentially. Now, we need tools to make that easier for people to do. We need tools for people to go to and like view the proposals, view the people wanting to basically act as like, I guess you could say, elected representatives for their Uni tokens and things like that. And that's exactly what fish.vote here is doing. And there's a bunch of other tools like this out there. Snapshot is a very popular tool for governance, right? The compound governance system as a whole is very popular and gets forked by a lot of different projects. There's a few others out there. The names escape me right now, but I think governance, DAO governance in general, is going to be a very big theme over the next couple of years. It is becoming very serious as well because the treasuries of these DAOs is so big, and the apps themselves just keep growing and keep generating more and more cash flows for the protocol. I know. I was talking about the index co-op before. Their revenues are growing every day. I think they're up to like $15,000 a day in revenue now, and that's just going to keep growing. And there's a bunch of other protocols out there that have, more revenues than that. Obviously, MakerDAO has stuff like that, and the surplus of that goes to burning MKR tokens. But there are treasury kind of like proposals that go through as well. And then SushiSwap obviously pays it out to stakers. I mean, there's so many of these protocols now. So governance is becoming extremely important, and being able to delegate your tokens to other people is becoming important, because the barrier to entry on like fully on-chain governance systems needs to be very high, in terms of token requirement. Because if it's not, it means that just anyone can create a proposal and then it can be gamed and all this sort of stuff. So I think this is the right approach, making the, I guess, like minimum token amount required like very large, because then you have people basically acting as protocol politicians and vying for people to delegate their tokens to them so that they can basically do what they feel is the best, is in the best interest of the protocol. So yeah, really cool to see these extra tools getting put out here. I hope to see more of these, built over time. I'm sure we will. Like there's so many tools. Like I'm just thinking of all of them now. I mean, there's a project that I guess like I came across on Twitter that I thought was interesting called Orca Protocol. They are doing a lot of stuff around governance. I mean, the governance space is just getting started. I would say that we're still very early there. I know there were some early attempts from like Aragon and some other projects, but I don't think that they've kind of gone anywhere. I think they were very, very early. Not to say that they're bad or anything like that, but they were very early, and it doesn't seem like they kind of like captured the mind share that they hope they would, but it doesn't mean people are giving up here. So very, very cool to see this, and I hope to see more tools come out, not just for Uniswap governance, but for all kind of governance here. All right, so last up, we have a tweet that Scott Lewis put out today that I'm going to spend a bit of time going over. So essentially what he said was, scammy ecosystems attract scammy co-founders, and more scammy co-founders create even scammier ecosystems. Ethereum culture attracts authentic founders. Culture is a bigger moat than many realize. I've spoken about this a lot, right, in the past, both on the Refuel and in my newsletter, where I basically say Ethereum culture is the most important thing that Ethereum has going for it, and it is the reason why Ethereum is number one still in terms of like usage as a smart contract platform, and will remain number one into the future. Ethereum has a lot of problems to solve. It is not a perfect system. It has a lot of headwinds, but Ethereum will meet them head on, and we have the right people to do that in the ecosystem. So what I want to do for the next few minutes is basically define a little bit of Ethereum culture and contrast that with the cultures of other kind of chains and ecosystems out there, and how they differ, and then bring it all back to why Ethereum wins. Okay, so Ethereum culture, what is it? Well, I mean, at the core of it, it is open, right? Everyone is allowed to participate in the Ethereum ecosystem, whether you're a scammer, right? Whether you're a builder, whether you're a visionary, all of them are allowed to build an ecosystem. Not all of them are welcome, but all of them are allowed to build an ecosystem because Ethereum is a neutral platform, right? Ethereum has its fair share of scams, don't get me wrong. But in saying that, the Ethereum culture and ecosystem actively weeds out these scams and calls them out and make sure to ignore them, and teams don't like working with them, right? So if you kind of look at the whole landscape, the top teams in this ecosystem are not scammers, right? The top protocols are not scams. The whole culture around what people use and what people trust their money to are not scams. So, and that just comes from the people within the ecosystem weeding out this sort of stuff. Whereas there are other ecosystems out there which on the face of it have either have just outright scammy projects or very dodgy projects in general. I'm not going to name any in particular, but you're going to obviously know what I'm talking about. But when you have ecosystems and chains where rug pulls are literally happening daily, right? I know they happen on Ethereum, but they happen more so on other ecosystems literally daily, where users are losing tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of funds, right? Over time, and your ecosystem and your social layer isn't weeding this out, isn't calling this out, isn't caring about this, is actually encouraging this because you maybe have like ape culture where it's like, okay, you got rugged in this scam, just try another one, right? It's like a casino culture. And I've spoken about this thing before about how there's two separate kind of, I think, markets in this industry. There's the casino market where there's people just playing in those markets, just, putting it all on black, wanting to win big, whatever. They're not here for the fundamental side of things. But then there's the fundamental side and the fundamental culture, and these people are here for way more than money. They want to build world-changing products at the end of the day. And I think Ethereum has a monopoly on that. And the other chains have a monopoly on the casino stuff. I think the other chains actually took away a lot of the scammy and casino stuff that was happening on Ethereum and kind of ported them over, which I thank them for. Like I really hated a lot of that stuff that was going on Ethereum. But that was very healthy, I think, to happen. And it kind of, the Ethereum ecosystem essentially acted as like, has an immune system, which basically forced out these scams and forced them into other platforms that didn't have that immune system, didn't have that culture. Because you can think of it as kind of like I'm not going to use a virus, maybe that hits too close to home, but you can think of it as something that like you have to weed out, right? And then you just basically push it onto a weaker organism. Like if you remove something from your system, right, and then it goes and infects a weaker organism, and that organism kind of like dies off because of it, well, that means they weren't as strong as the one that weeded them out. And that's exactly how I view Ethereum culture. We weed things out, we get rid of this sort of stuff, we take ourselves seriously, and we don't get bogged down by this sort of stuff. And every time a hack happens, the Ethereum ecosystem doesn't say, haha, lol, okay, whatever, let's move on to the next thing. They do postmortems. They try to make users whole. The rest of the projects learn from this. And that builds a very non-scammy, non-grifter ecosystem and a very kind of like great and strong social layer. And from what I've seen, the Ethereum community, in some instances can sometimes be a little bit toxic, but generally is very welcoming and friendly. And I think that started from the very beginning. And to keep that culture, I mean, it takes effort, right? The bigger an ecosystem gets, the more chance it is to turn, I think, toxic, depending on how, I guess, community leaders treat this sort of stuff. There are a lot of community leaders within the Ethereum ecosystem. I count myself among those, and I try really, really hard not to be toxic. Like sometimes, I might come across as a little bit toxic on Twitter or whatever. Sometimes I'll say things, about different ecosystems that maybe come across as mean or whatever. But personally, I always try to be as non-toxic as possible, and I always try to stick with the science and the facts. And I think that's what a lot of people in the Ethereum ecosystem try to do. So this is exactly why Ethereum culture is what it is. That is why Ethereum has a monopoly on good culture, because you don't want to go to these other ecosystems because they just don't have that. Like, could you imagine someone, and I'll call out an ecosystem here, but just for an obvious example, but could you imagine a hardcore Ethereum builder who really believes in the Ethereum mission and vision going to BSC, right? That's not going to happen. Like, and not even just a builder, but like anyone who's part of the Ethereum social layer who really believes in the Ethereum mission, they're not going to BSC, right? They're never doing that because BSC does not, does not have what they want. And also, if they were to go there, basically they'd just be surrounded by all this crap that they don't want to deal with, right? They don't want to be a part of. It's essentially like, if you go there, you're basically, you feel like you're part of a scammy ecosystem, and it feels really gross and ugly, and you feel like you're participating in something that is just really bad for humanity. And maybe I'm over exaggerating here. Maybe I'm being a bit hyperbolic. I know I've said that word wrong. Someone's going to call me out for that, but whatever. But I really do believe that the culture, the social layer of these systems is way more important than people give it credit for. And that's why I think, stuff like Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin's social layer is completely broken. It is incredibly toxic. They think it's a feature that they're toxic. I think it's a bug. I think it's a reason why Bitcoin continues to lose market share. And I think it's a reason why Bitcoin continues to kind of like just fit in and fill into this kind of like very unimaginative niche that is digital gold. I think Bitcoin could have been much more than what it was, than what it is, sorry, but people wanted it to be what it is today, and the people left in that ecosystem are quite toxic. But anyway, I think I'm going to leave that at that for now. I think a lot of like, I guess, a lot of this stuff because I've spoken about it on the Refuel before. I speak about it a lot on Twitter. Just follow the legit builders, follow the non-scammy people. If you're here to make money, that's fine. But there's making money and then there's gambling. Like, you can make money by not gambling. I mean, I know plenty of people who have done this. They bought ETH, they stacked ETH, they bought DeFi tokens that they believed in and everything like that. They built things, even that. Like, I know the bankless guys have done really well here, but in particular, they built a whole business around being legitimate Ethereum media. And they have a whole team now and everything like that, and that was amazing to see. Personally, I was able to build wealth through just like fundamentals based investing and sticking to the Ethereum ecosystem, and now I get to provide all this free education for all of you guys. I don't see that happening within the other ecosystems, right? I don't see the daily insert ecosystem here, right, or anything like that. I don't see a bankless like in the other ecosystem. I don't see all these social kind of layer things in these other ecosystems. And that's the major reason I believe why so many people stick with Ethereum, and Ethereum is still home. Even if they deploy to other chains or whatever, Ethereum is still home. Ethereum is still where everyone wants to be. The culture of Ethereum is unbeatable. It's incredibly welcoming. It's very hard to feel unwelcome in the Ethereum community unless you, for some reason, have done something to make yourself unwelcome, like unless you ran a scam, right? Or unless you tried to run a grift on people, or unless you treated people like, and you're an asshole to them, whatever. It's just generally very hard to feel unwelcome. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, and I think that's it for today's episode. So thank you again, everyone, for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.